3 years ago, and every once in a while you sort of feel the presence, but I don't know whether that's just because you want.
They said Clint Eastwood was too old to matter 40 years ago. Now, at 94, he's doing what most people half his age could only dream of. Directing blockbuster movies, flying his own helicopter, waking up before dawn for workouts that would exhaust a 30-year-old, and dating women decades younger. Clint isn't just living, he's thriving. How does a man approaching a century still have the energy to outwork Hollywood's younger generation? What drives him to keep pushing the limits when others would be enjoying retirement? Clint Eastwood is rewriting what it means to grow old, showing the world that true legends don't slow down. They find new ways to keep rising. Clint Eastwood was born on May 31, 1930, weighing over 11 pounds. The nurses called him Samson, a nickname that hinted at the strength he would carry throughout his life. He grew up in Piedmont, California, surrounded by privilege: 2 family cars, a swimming pool, and a country club membership. His mother could trace their lineage all the way back to the Mayflower. But even with such a background, Clint's life was never going to be ordinary. School was never his strength. He failed junior high and had to repeat a year at Oakland Technical High. Teachers saw potential in him, especially when he performed on stage. But Clint had other interests: cars, girls, and fixing engines. Some friends even believed he never officially graduated. Yet hidden beneath the rebellious exterior was a different side. Clint was a skilled pianist, practicing long hours and mastering pieces most teenagers wouldn't dare attempt. That same discipline and focus would later fuel his filmmaking career. After high school, Clint didn't head straight to Hollywood. He worked dangerous, blue-collar jobs, taming wild logs in Oregon and serving as a lifeguard and bouncer. Then came the Army draft. While stationed at Fort Ord, Clint experienced a life-changing event. A Navy aircraft he was on crashed into the freezing waters near Point Reyes. Clint swam over 2 miles through shark-infested water to survive. It was pure, raw terror, a memory that he later channeled into his acting, notably in Escape from Alcatraz. His early attempts at acting were humble and awkward. In 1955, he snagged a minor role in Revenge of the Creature. His scene involved fumbling with a rat, and it took 15 takes to get it right. Universal Pictures ended his contract after only 18 months, criticizing his Adam's apple, slow speech, and even a chipped tooth he refused to fix. As he stood in the parking lot with Burt Reynolds, Reynolds joked, "You're really screwed because I can learn to act. You can't lose that Adam's apple." But destiny has a funny way of rewarding perseverance. One afternoon, while Clint was chatting with a story editor at NBC, a CBS executive noticed him. That brief encounter led to a screen test and eventually a starring role in Rawhide. Suddenly, the traits that had once made him unemployable, his quiet voice, rugged looks, and calm demeanor, became his greatest assets. Rawhide turned him into a national star, even though Clint found his character, Rowdy Yates, immature and tiresome. By the 6th year of Rawhide, Clint was desperate for change. That change came when Sergio Leone, an Italian director working under the pseudonym Bob Robertson, offered him a role in a low-budget Western shooting in Spain. Clint wasn't the first choice. Bigger names like Henry Fonda and James Coburn had turned it down. Clint accepted, thinking nobody in America would ever see it. That movie, A Fistful of Dollars, changed everything. Clint created his character's entire look: bleached black Levi's, recycled rawhide boots and belts, a second-hand hat, and a poncho he found in a shop. His character barely spoke, relying instead on body language and silence. That approach made the man with no name iconic, even though the character's name changed from movie to movie. When the trilogy of spaghetti westerns finally hit American theaters, critics hated them. Some called them cheap, dopey, even disastrous. But audiences disagreed. The films grossed over $84 million on a budget of just $2 million. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly alone sold more than 44 million tickets. Clint Eastwood wasn't just a star, he was a revolution. The 1970s brought another major turning point. Dirty Harry introduced audiences to a new kind of anti-hero. Frank Sinatra had been the original choice, but after passing through several big names, the role landed with Clint. His portrayal of the tough, unyielding detective became legendary, and the phrase, "Go ahead, make my day," became part of American pop culture. But Eastwood wasn't content staying in one lane. He shocked everyone with Every Which Way But Loose, a comedy about a street-fighting trucker and his orangutan sidekick. Critics were horrified, predicting it would end his career. Instead, it became his biggest box office success at the time, proving that Clint understood his audience better than anyone. Clint wasn't just acting, he wanted control. In 1971, he directed Play Misty for Me, shooting it under budget and ahead of schedule in his hometown of Carmel. He had already laid the foundation for independence with Malpaso Productions. By the late 1970s, Clint Eastwood was running his own empire, picking his scripts, hiring his directors, and setting his terms. The 1990s and 2000s showcased his evolution as a filmmaker. Unforgiven, a dark, introspective Western, won 4 Academy Awards. Mystic River and $1 Million Baby cemented his status as a director who could tackle heavy emotional stories without losing authenticity. $1 Million Baby, centered on assisted suicide, was a huge gamble, but Clint trusted his instincts, and the result was a sweeping success, both critically and financially. Even into his 70s, Clint wasn't slowing down. Gran Torino, released when he was almost 80, became one of his biggest hits. Audiences connected with the bitter old war vet who slowly lets his guard down, seeing echoes of every tough guy Clint had ever played. Behind the scenes, Clint's personal life was just as dramatic. In his 60s, he discovered he had a daughter, Lori Murray, from a relationship in the 1950s. Lori had been adopted and raised in Seattle, unaware that her biological father was a Hollywood icon. Clint welcomed her without fanfare, integrating her into the Eastwood family. There were other relationships too. His long affair with stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis resulted in a daughter, Kimber, though it remained secret for years. His tumultuous partnership with Sandra Locke ended in a bitter lawsuit. Even while still with Locke, Clint fathered 2 more children with flight attendant Jocelyn Reeves. His personal life was a web of secrets, love, betrayal, and reconciliation. In his later years, Clint found quieter companionship with Christina Sendera, a hotel hostess. They lived away from the spotlight, focusing on their passions and supporting each other. Her death in 2024 devastated Clint, leaving a quiet ache that those closest to him could feel. As a grandfather, Clint shows a softer side. Once a strict, distant father, he now delights in his grandchildren's games and laughter. He jokes about feeling ridiculous among younger parents, but doesn't care. Age has made him more sentimental, more open, and in many ways more human. At 94, Clint completed Juror Number 2, a taut thriller exploring guilt and conscience. While Hollywood whispered that this would be his final bow, rumors swirled that Clint was already preparing his next project. Retirement isn't part of his vocabulary. A controversy erupted when a YouTube interview promoting Juror Number 2 mysteriously vanished. Fans suspected Warner Brothers had pulled it due to Clint's candid remarks on political correctness in the Me Too movement. The disappearance sparked debates about censorship. For him, it's always been about the journey, not the recognition. His legacy isn't built on awards, headlines, or scandals. It's built on resilience, reinvention, and relentless passion. Even now, Clint Eastwood is not just surviving. He's still charging forward, still defying expectations, still living like a legend. Thanks for watching.